Hey everyone. I wanted to film outside today, but it's unfortunately incredibly windy, so you're getting a car video instead. But the topic I wanted to discuss is what should you do when someone you're interested in is holding back? I'm sure many of us have been in that situation. I've been there plenty of times where you're seeing someone, things are seemingly going well, or at least all right, but you can kind of tell that the other person is holding back. And they have a tendency to show you that they're interested in you in some ways, but then in other ways it's like they're putting up walls and boundaries that don't really need to be there, and they're basically afraid of being vulnerable. Well, what should you do in those situations? And you aren't left with a whole lot of options because it deals with someone else, so you can't control their behavior. But I would say there are basically really about two things you can try doing. The first one is basically being authentic and honest with them, trying to have a conversation, let them know how you feel about them, and let them know how them holding back makes you feel as well. And you don't want to blame them or anything like that. I mean, you basically want to create like a safe space for the two of you, even though that term kind of, I don't care much for it, but you really do want to elicit a space where the two of you can be honest and open with each other so that they don't feel like they're being judged in any way. And yeah, you don't want to judge them at all, so otherwise they're not going to open up to you. So yeah, you need to create that kind of bubble for the two of you to have an honest conversation. And in that conversation, let them know how you feel about them. Maybe not like go too overboard if your feelings are incredibly strong, because that could scare someone away, but you just want to let them know that you want to continue seeing them. You like what you see of them so far, their personality and whatnot, so it makes you want to continue spending time with them. But then the fact that they're holding back makes you question whether or not it's worth your time and energy to continue doing that. Are they ready? Are they in the right headspace? Like, what's going on here? And tell them that it doesn't make you feel great. It makes you kind of question your own motives, or not motives, your own, how do I put it? Yeah, basically whether or not you're making the right move, spending time on them. But the more you can be honest about that without putting the blame on them or anything, you're basically just sharing how you feel. It can open the door for them potentially letting you know what's going on in their life. But again, I mean, you're not always going to get that from them. Like, some people are just broken and they need the time to heal, so they're not going to be willing to share that. But even if that's the case, do you really want to be going after someone who's broken? I would hope not, because that whole desire to save someone else usually stems from other insecurities, like wanting to feel wanted, because if you're helping a broken person, your goal is for them to want you and rely on you and that sort of thing, right? So there could be issues there if you're trying to stay with someone who's broken. I would usually suggest not doing that, because who has the time for that, right? If you're working on yourself, do you really have the time to help somebody else heal and all that? Maybe you do. I mean, we're all different, but just in general, I would suggest against doing that. But anyway, this ties in to the other option that I would say you have in this situation, which is letting them go and moving on. I'm sure many of you saw that coming if you followed my videos for a while, but that's really one of the few things you can do. You can either be honest and hope that it gets them to tell you what the hell is going on in their life that's causing them to hold back, or you just realize that this is someone who's not ready, and if you are ready, why are you going to wait around for them to be ready? You don't know how long that will take, so move on. Find someone else who is ready to meet you where you're at. I mean, I would rather stay single than spend a lot of time on a woman who isn't ready. I already made that mistake in the past and it was horrible, so I'm not going to do that to myself again. Just a pro tip there, like, don't waste your time on someone who's not ready. You're not going to be able to save them. People have to heal in their own timeline, and sometimes you're simply not going to be in that timeline by the time they're ready, and that's okay. Like, if they really liked you enough, they'll come back, and if they didn't, well, you're better off without them. So that's pretty much it for the most part. That's what I would say your options are if someone is holding back, because you have to understand where they're at. Like, if they're holding back, there's usually something causing that, and it could be trauma from their past, could be insecurities and them being afraid of being vulnerable and whatnot, could be you coming on a bit too strong and scaring them, could be you being a phenomenal partner for them, which also scares them, because then they start wondering whether they deserve you, and so on and so forth. There's so many things out there, but it basically boils down to them not having done enough work to meet you where you're at. So if they're not ready for you, I wouldn't wait for them to be ready. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in this video. I truly hope you enjoyed this one. If you have other tips for what people should do in these situations, feel free to leave them in the comments below. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, feel free to leave a like for it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Arrivederci!